What happens when over 500 people reach the summit of Mount Everest in one season, but barely anyone dies? That's what shocked the world in spring 2025. Nepal issued 446 Everest climbing permits, and by the third week of May, over 500 climbers, including Sherpas, had stood on top of the world's tallest mountain. Yet, somehow, only 2 foreign climbers died. In a year packed with extreme weather, heavy crowds, and tech-fueled record attempts, Everest saw one of its safest seasons in recent memory. This isn't the Everest you remember. Climbers are skipping the usual month-long process and reaching the summit in just 4 or 5 days. So, what's changed? And what does this say about where Everest is heading? Let's begin with what made 2025 so different and so historic. If you looked at Everest in May 2025, you'd see tents packed along every camp, climbers moving up rope lines day and night, and helicopters flying in and out of base camp almost daily. Nepal's Department of Tourism confirmed that 446 permits were issued for the south side of Everest this spring, each costing $11,000. Add in guides, support staff, and logistics, and over 1,000 people were active on the mountain during summit season. By May 24th, over 500 climbers had already reached the summit. This includes foreigners, Sherpas, and elite speed climbers. On May 18th alone, more than 129 summits were recorded. Yet, despite these massive numbers, Everest's death toll stayed incredibly low, something almost no one expected. Only 2 foreign climbers died this spring. On May 15th, Philip II Santiago, a 45-year-old from the Philippines, was found dead at Camp 4. The next day, Subrata Ghosh, a 45-year-old Indian climber, died just below the Hillary Step, near the summit. Ghosh had successfully summited, but collapsed on the descent. His Sherpa guide stayed with him through the night, but couldn't save him. In addition, 2 Sherpa guides also lost their lives this season. On April 2nd, Lanima Sherpa, age 55, died from acute altitude sickness at base camp. In early May, Ngima Dorji Sherpa suffered a brain hemorrhage, also at base camp, and died shortly after. On May 4th, another Sherpa named Penchiri had a heart attack at Camp 1 and passed away. Then, on May 15th, 2 Nepali base camp staff were evacuated to Kathmandu after falling sick. Both later died in the hospital. These 4 are counted in the Sherpa death toll. So, by late May 2025, Everest had seen just 7 total deaths, 5 Sherpas and 2 foreign climbers. For comparison, 18 people died in 2023, making that one of the deadliest seasons ever. Now in 2025, with even more climbers, the number has dropped by 2/3. That's why guides, mountaineers, and journalists are calling this season miraculous. Many believe it's partly due to faster climbing styles, which shorten exposure to danger, but some say it's just pure luck. With such a crowded mountain and unpredictable weather, this season could have easily turned tragic. In the past, climbing Everest meant spending 6 to 8 weeks on the mountain. You'd go up and down between camps to get your body used to the thin air before your summit push. That's how it worked for decades. But 2025 flipped that idea on its head. This year, climbers started using xenon gas and hypoxic tents to pre-acclimatize before ever stepping on Everest. That meant they could arrive at base camp and start heading straight up. Let's look at one of the most talked about climbs of the year. A group of 4 British climbers, all ex-military, set off on what they called the Mission Everest expedition. They trained for months using low-oxygen tents at home, but they didn't stop there. Just before leaving, they each inhaled xenon gas, a rare, inert gas normally used in medicine. It helps the body produce more red blood cells, making it easier to handle high altitude. The group flew from London to Kathmandu in early May. From there, they were helicoptered straight to base camp. They climbed up the standard southeast route, and by May 21st, all 4 were standing on the summit, just 5 days after leaving home. That's never happened before. Their guide, Lucas Furtenbach, is known for pioneering fast Everest climbs. Back in 2017, he launched his Everest Flash expeditions, where climbers trained at home and then climbed the mountain in under 3 weeks. But 2025 was different. This time, his clients didn't spend any time acclimatizing on the mountain. They relied completely on the xenon dose and their home training. Furtenbach told reporters that the clients had their xenon session in Germany under medical supervision. They were lightly sedated and breathed xenon mixed with oxygen for 30 minutes. He said the body's response would peak around 10 to 14 days later, just in time for their summit bid. He also said this was the first time regular clients had used xenon for Everest. Before this, it was mostly used by elite Sherpas. But the story doesn't stop there. Just days later, Andrew Ushakov, an American climber, stunned everyone by doing his own speed record. Ushakov spent over 400 hours training in a hypoxic chamber before his trip. On May 15th, at 12:30 a.m., he left New York City. He flew to Nepal, landed in Kathmandu, and was taken to base camp by helicopter. On May 19th, at 9:22 a.m., he stood on the summit. The entire journey, from sea level to the top of Everest, took just 3 days, 23 hours, and 7 minutes. Ushakov didn't use xenon, but he did use bottled oxygen and high-tech prep. He told journalists that people had called the climb impossible. He said he hoped it showed others that you don't have to be a full-time athlete to do something extraordinary. These two climbs, the British Xenon team and Ushakov's record, sparked huge discussion online. Some climbers praised the innovation. Others said it missed the point of climbing Everest. But no matter what you think, this is a new era. One Everest blog wrote that climbers are now showing up, summiting, and flying home in under a week. In the past, that idea would have sounded crazy. Now, it's happening every few days. Guides also say that these faster climbs may help explain why the death rate is lower this year. By spending less time at high altitudes, climbers reduce the risk of exhaustion, frostbite, and sickness. But it also raises new safety questions. What happens if someone gets sick on day 2? Are rescue teams ready? But while the tech climbs steal headlines, something else is happening on the mountain too. Let's talk about Nirmal Purja, also known as Nimsdai. You may already know him from 2019 when he shocked the world by climbing all 14 of the world's 8,000-meter peaks in just 6 months. That record still stands. But now, in 2025, he's back with a new mission. He calls it the Hat Trick Challenge. His goal is to summit all 14 of those peaks again for the 3rd time each. That means 42 summits total when he's done. He starts strong. On May 21, 2025, Nimsdai climbed Kanchenjunga, the 3rd highest mountain in the world, at 8,586 meters. This marks his 49th successful 8,000-meter summit overall. But there's something more. He does it without bottled oxygen. This makes it his 21st 8,000-meter summit without supplemental oxygen, something only a handful of climbers have ever done. His team confirms this on Everest Chronicle and shares that the climb also helps raise money. Nims is aiming to collect over $1.4 million to support Sherpa families and military veterans in Nepal. If he completes the hat trick, he'll be the first human in history to summit all 14 8,000ers 3 times. Nobody else has even tried. But Nims isn't the only one making history this year. Naila Kiani makes headlines just 2 days later. On May 23rd, she becomes the first Pakistani woman to summit 12 out of the 14 8,000ers. This includes peaks like Everest, K2, Annapurna, and now Kanchenjunga. She reaches the summit at exactly 6:30 a.m. local time, according to her team. Her remaining 2 peaks are Dhaulagiri and Shishapangma, and many believe she will complete all 14 by the end of this year. That would make her the first Pakistani woman to join the elite club of climbers who've summited all 8,000-meter mountains. That club has fewer than 60 people in the world. And Naila isn't a full-time climber. She's a banker, a mother, and a former national boxer. Her story inspires millions in Pakistan and around the world. Pakistani newspapers call it a watershed moment for women in mountaineering. To understand how rare this is, consider this. She's only the 2nd Pakistani woman ever to summit Mount Everest. That alone puts her in the record books. While new climbers break records, some legends continue to build on their legacies. One of those is Garrett Madison, an American guide who's been leading Everest expeditions since 2009. On May 23, 2025, Madison stood on the summit of Everest for the 15th time, tying Dave Hahn's record for the most Everest summits by an American. Even more impressive, since 2009, Madison has guided more than 80 climbers safely to the summit. That makes him one of the most successful guides in the world. During the climb, he makes a live satellite call to Everest expert Alan Arnett, confirming that this is his 15th summit. Despite the cold, Madison smiles from the summit, saying the view never gets old. Everest 2025 is also a year for powerful women making history together. On May 21st, Eva Steinwald, age 62, became the oldest American woman to stand on top of Everest. But she's not climbing alone. Her 17-year-old friend, Emma Schwerin, follows her the next day, becoming the youngest American woman to reach the summit. But Emma doesn't stop there. Her Everest climb completes the 7 summits, meaning she's now climbed the highest peak on each of the 7 continents, all before turning 18. These 2 climbers, often called the Steinwald twins by fans, show that Everest isn't just about speed and tech. It's about friendship, perseverance, and proving that age, young or old, doesn't decide your strength. On May 11th, Aysel Baybagisheva climbed Everest and became the first woman from Kyrgyzstan to ever reach the summit. Her team celebrates at the top, waving the national flag of Kyrgyzstan. Back home, local news outlets call it a moment of pride. The Kyrgyz mountaineering community hopes her climb will lead to more women in the region joining outdoor sports and mountain expeditions. She trained for 2 years for this climb, and her summit marks a new beginning for female climbers in Central Asia. In southern India, a former home baker named Safrina Latif writes her own Everest story. On May 18, 2025, she becomes the first woman from Kerala, a state in India, to summit Everest. At age 37, Safrina balances family life, training, and full-time work. She started climbing after her daughter was born, looking for a way to stay active. Over the years, she saved money, trained in the Himalayas, and joined an Indian expedition in 2025. Her journey, from baking cakes to battling snowstorms at 8,849 meters, is shared across Indian news outlets. Many women call her climb a symbol of courage. And yet, while these stories inspire, the challenges on Everest haven't gone away. If anything, they're growing stronger. In 2025, Everest is still Everest, cold, dangerous, and unpredictable. In late May, forecasters send out urgent warnings. A cyclone forming in the Bay of Bengal could hit the region by May 27th, cutting off the end of summit season. Alan Arnett's team says this kind of storm is rare for this early in the year, and guides are told to get their climbers down before the 27th. Earlier in May, high winds already slowed everything down. On May 19th, experienced IFMGA guide Prakash Gurung shares a photo showing lines of climbers stuck from Camp 4 to the summit. He says winds hit 40 miles per hour, and you can see climbers bent low, moving carefully through blowing snow. One expedition leader says their team starts the climb even as wind gusts pound the route. They don't reach Camp 3 until midday, when the wind calms for a short time. The next day, on May 20th, many teams pause their climbs completely after new weather models show even stronger winds approaching. Some climbers sit in tents for hours, watching oxygen levels and wondering if they'll still get a chance to summit. The conditions are brutal: freezing temperatures, strong winds, and falling snow. One British climber tells reporters that their descent feels windy but doable, but only because they're using bottled oxygen. Another guide says that even on the record-breaking fast climbs, this is still Everest, and Everest will always fight back. Crowding also reaches a breaking point this season. As more climbers try to summit in a short weather window, bottlenecks start forming on the ropes. Popular commercial expeditions bring groups of 80 to 100 clients, supported by large Sherpa teams. When these groups push at the same time, the route becomes a traffic jam in the death zone. Prakash Gurung's photo from May 19th doesn't just show lines, it shows 27 Sherpa guides helping 13 clients in one team. Some Sherpas are forced to climb twice to support clients stuck in the bottleneck. Prakash later says it was a perfect day because everyone summited safely, but many climbers viewing the photos say it looks dangerously crowded. And here's the problem: if someone runs out of oxygen or collapses in that line, everyone behind them has to wait or turn back. In tight areas like the Hillary Step or the South Summit, there's nowhere to pass. In 2019, delays like this contributed to multiple deaths. In 2025, thanks to better coordination, nobody dies in the queues. Behind every climber who reaches the summit, there's a team of people doing the heavy lifting, literally. And this year, those people started speaking up louder than ever before. In early May, veteran guide Yubaraj Rai shared a video from base camp. In it, you see two old Sherpa women carrying massive loads, on their backs and heads, walking above 18,000 feet. They don't have expensive down suits or oxygen, just boots, a rope, and their strength. The video goes viral across Nepal. Commenters call them superhuman, but others point out how unfair it is. One guide writes, if the climbers pay $50,000 to summit, the porters should at least have boots that don't fall apart. Nepali guides are now asking for new rules. Limit group sizes, enforce better health checks for porters and staff, and make sure Sherpas aren't being pushed too far. Some activists say that while foreigners are flying to base camp by helicopter and summiting in 4 days, Sherpas are still walking every step, often without proper gear. The 2 Sherpas who died of altitude sickness this year, both had been working high on the mountain and then fell sick at base camp. They were flown to Kathmandu, but didn't survive. Some guides say they hadn't been screened properly before the climb. With all this change, many people in the mountaineering world are now asking, is the Everest we knew disappearing? Some call Everest in 2025 a carnival. They say climbing has become about money, not meaning. You see climbers fly from sea level to the summit in 5 days. You see helicopters dropping off VIPs at Camp 2, and you hear about clients who need 3 Sherpas to carry their snacks and phones. Critics say this isn't climbing, it's luxury trekking with oxygen tanks. The BBC called the Xenon climbs controversial. Even some guides say using gas to skip acclimatization betrays the Everest challenge. For decades, Everest tested a person's patience, endurance, and decision-making. Now, they say, it's becoming about speed, social media, and selfies. But not everyone agrees. Others argue this is natural progress. Tools improve, safety improves, access expands. They say the spirit of Everest is not about suffering, it's about pushing limits. If technology helps more people reach those limits, why say no? Andrew Ushakov, the climber who summited in under 4 days from New York, says his goal was to show that you don't have to be a full-time athlete to do something extraordinary. Garrett Madison, with 15 summits, says experienced guides deserve to innovate. One thing is clear, 2025 has changed Everest forever. You now live in a world where climbing Everest can take 60 days or 6 days. You can climb with no oxygen or fly in on a private chopper. You can walk every step or ride half the way. What kind of climber you become on Everest is now up to you. But one thing hasn't changed. The mountain is still 8,849 meters high, and every summit still has a cost.